Every new design has to have some form of implementation plan. We cannot simply show up with a new piece of technology, plug it in, and expect it to work. We need to have detailed processes of how it is going to be implemented, how long the implementation will take, how well it will interoperate with other systems or processes already in place, and what processes will need to be changed. Every organization will have a different set of specific variables, but many will include what is discussed in this lecture. One area in these types of projects that is commonly overlooked is not just building a timeline into the implementation, but building a realistic one. Think about how long it will take to actually develop this emerging technology. Does anything need to be physically built? Is there any programming required? Will an outside organization or consultant be needed to help with the implementation? What are the delivery times? These are just a few of the questions you should consider. Each element of the design will take time, and each element of implementing the design will take time. No implementation happens overnight. It is a process that should be completely mapped out to show the amount of time needed for each piece of the puzzle. You will also need to include time for problem solving and errors so that when the problems occur, and they usually do, you will not fall behind schedule. Falling behind schedule can create negative perceptions about the implementation and, more importantly, the technology being implemented. Building some time for errors into the schedule keeps everyone at ease. Most students on these types of projects will quickly create an arbitrary timeline without thinking about these details. Make sure you put a lot of thought into this section. You also need to consider how well your implementation is going to work with other systems or processes within the organization. Interoperability is always a major concern in any implementation plan. We can't break everything else just to make our idea work. If it is going to create a major change, you will need to consider how that change will affect the operations of the company. Organizational leaders will rarely approve something new that will have a drastic impact on operations. And even a small impact on operations will raise some eyebrows, so you have to consider how much impact will occur and how to limit the negative impact in such a way that the implementation can move forward. One angle that can be effective is to show a comparison of the positive and negative impacts so that the leaders can weigh the benefits. If the positive impacts are more important, negative impacts that are small will typically be accepted. Most new implementations will also require a change to how business is conducted. Take, for example, the installation of a database system where employees previously used simple spreadsheets to store and track data. New procedures would need to be created on how to use the database, how data is entered into the database, how queries are constructed, and every other detail that the employees would not already know how to do. Every implementation tends to drive some type of change in a process or a procedure. Think about how your new technology will change the business that is conducted on both a day-to-day basis and in bigger terms of changes to any external offerings. It also helps to think forward of any potential errors that may occur. If you know that a new system will require a lot of power, you should make a note of this, having the potential to slow down the implementation if the necessary power requirements are not met. Anytime you can picture what may go wrong or what could hold up the implementation, you can build into your plan how to overcome that challenge. You should also have a list of expected results, so you know if you hit your target and if everything was successfully implemented. And these results can be tied back to the timeline, so you know if you are on track for finishing on time. Now, these are all good things to consider with an implementation plan, and you have probably thought of several more while you were listening to this lecture. Take some time today and write out as many things you can think of that will be required during your implementation. You can then use this list as a reference as you start to put together the details of this plan. There's an old saying, failing to plan means you are planning to fail. And the reverse is also true. When we have a plan, we tend to have a much greater success at succeeding.